everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations. Today I'm going to show you how you make a lamp post with a sign to tell Santa where to stop. Let's do it.
I have to admit up front, I made a lot of mistakes on this project to the point where I almost didn't post it. But then I remembered woodworking is about problem solving, and if someone can learn from my mistakes, then that is a win in my eyes. The first thing you want to do before stepping into the workshop is purchase your lamp cord that you want to use. I purchased mine from IKEA for $3.50. You will need this cord for measurements. I wanted to use hardwood fence palings for this project, but my local hardware store didn't have any, so I adjusted the design on the spot and went with pine instead and thought I would just paint it. The timber shopping list for this project is 2 sticks of 60mm pine that were 1.2 metres in length, 2 30 by 30mm square pine sticks, and some scrap 6mm plywood and 42mm wide pine. What you have been watching me do up until this point is the building of the lamp post, which is 600mm high. I constructed 3 sides of the box with glue and brad nails and left the back off as I would screw this later once the cord was put in. I puttied up all the holes and moved on to the top section. This again is a simple box design. I cut 2 lengths at 230mm and 2 lengths at 170mm and glued it together to make a square. At the same time, I cut the 6mm plywood which would make up the base to be the same size. I cut a 25mm hole in the centre of the plywood which would be where the lamp cord came through. I cut the 4 posts next and they were 250mm high. I marked on the plywood where the posts would sit and then marked the centre of these squares so that I could pre-drill for the posts to be screwed into place. I could then clamp everything down and screw the posts in. Once the top of the box was dry, I could glue and screw this into place. To give the base of the lamp post some stability and finish the design, I grabbed some scrap 42mm wide pine and cut them to length so that it would dress the bottom of the lamp post. I only did this to 3 sides so that I could get into the back where the cord would go through. This will make sense later. I just glued and nailed these pieces into place. I cut the back piece of the lamp post 20mm shorter than all the other pieces, so this would allow the cord to come out the back. I just screwed this into place so that if I ever needed to get to the cord, I could easily do that and it would be at the back so no one will ever see it. With the basic construction complete, I could sand everything to 220 grit and then it was time to paint. I decided to paint the top of the lamp navy blue because it's what I had on hand and I thought it would dress the lamp up a little. The lamp post is just sprayed white. I also cut another piece of 6mm plywood to be about 270mm by 200mm, which would be my Santa Stop Here sign. I sprayed this gloss red. Now I used red gloss spray paint because it's what I had on hand, but if you were going to do this project, I would suggest that you use a low sheen red as the paint markers will go on much easier, which you'll see in the next step. To make the sign, I used a stenciling letter set that I picked up from my local art store. My letters are 50mm in height. I marked the middle of the stencil and drew a line with a Sharpie as this will help me line everything up later on. On my board that was painted red, I measured down 10mm and put painter's tape to make a straight line. I then measured 30mm down and put painter's tape again. This painter's tape would be the centre line. I cut the painter's tape so it would be thinner and you'll see why in a second. I lined up the centre line on the stencil and the painter's tape and then used a paint marker to outline the letters. I also used a set square to help keep everything straight. I continue this along for each letter and allowing time in between for the paint marker to dry so you don't get any smudges. Once I finished the word Santa, I could remove the centre line painter's tape and finish the lettering. The thinner your blue tape is, the easier it is to connect the letters afterwards. Now I always suggest when using a stencil, write down somewhere what you are stenciling as it is very easy to get confused and stencil the wrong letter. When it comes to the word stop, I kinda just eyeballed it to be centre under the word Santa. I kept using painter's tape to mark the top of the letters and the middle so that I could get good straight lettering. Once all the lettering was finished, I could go back and colour everything in. I needed to do a few coats of colouring to get clear letters. Once the lettering is done, you can trim your board so that the words are in the middle. I found this easier than trying to get the letters in the middle from the get-go. I made a mistake and didn't account for the top part of the lamp cord, and mine didn't fit into the lamp post. So to fix this, I glued some pieces of pine together that was the same size of my lamp post, and then drilled a hole in the centre with a spade bit that would allow the top of the lamp cord to come through. I painted this blue so that it would look like it was part of the top of the lamp. With my mistake fixed, I could move to assembling the lamp, which was fairly straightforward. Just put the lamp cord in place and screw the top part of the lamp to the lamp post and then screw the back on. The last step was to screw my Santa Stop Here sign on, and the project was complete.
This was the last project completed for the 6 weeks of Christmas DIY. If you've missed any of my previous videos, I'll leave a link in the description to the playlist below so you can go back and check them out. Thank you so much for your support, and if you like this video or any of my others, make sure you hit those subscribe and like buttons below so you don't miss out on my next video. I'll see you on the next one.